Update written out, and so all of those things that were highlighted there, I received an email discussing each one, and so I think it's really good to be aware of what issues are, before the board. But if you want more detail, I highly recommend subscribing to her updates, because then more than just the headlines, you actually get the discussion of it as well. So I think that's very informative for anyone that's interested in district issues.
Do you know how to subscribe to those emails?
That is a wonderful question. I would just say send an email to gina.h@provo.edu. The email is on that, and I imagine she would be more than happy to add you to her email list.
Cool. Thank you. I don't receive those, so I appreciate the comment. Okay.
It looks like we have sound now. So just to reiterate, it was just the COP update. It was just reading the slides, Provo School District, just reading the slides. Didn't really miss anything on that. Oh.
Okay, we are going to move on to ask just a quick opinion poll. Do we want a public bathroom at Memorial Park, which is located at 800 North Center Street? It's the border of Mazer and Joaquin. So I think just a raise of hands. Do we want a bathroom? I do want a bathroom there.
Who wouldn't want a bathroom over there?
My kids play at that park. There's playground equipment.
They're peeing in the bushes right now, so. They are,
Okay, should we?
just the kids.
So
Yeah,
did Soraya get a
If you could
record of that?
hold your hands up long enough that we can get a count.
There's an uplifted hand on Zoom.
Should we get a count of those who are opposed to that idea? Because there may be some people that are
Sure.
ambivalent and they don't know enough to feel like they can vote.
Is there anyone opposed to the bathroom at Memorial Park? Okay, thank you.
Rachel, is there a thing online they can comment, like when we do subdivisions and stuff like that?
Yeah, we just only have one person on Zoom right now.
No,
and
I meant, can anybody get on and say, like we do for, zoning items and everything? Comment on this item?
I mean, they can just comment in the chat or raise their hand and I'll allow them to talk.
I'm talking about anybody in the district.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it on that?
Oh, for the bathroom? It's not, but that's a good idea. We can put it on.
Put a sign up at the park too, that tells them to call and comment.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on. I know that Art was unable to make it. He was going to update us on the Franklin and Franklin South Day of Service. There is one coming up. The Franklin Neighborhood does a day of service every month. And the upcoming one is on April 22nd from 8 to 11 a.m. I believe it's a Saturday. And I do love the opportunity to come together as a district and help out, neighboring neighborhoods. So monthly, hopefully we can start programs like that in the other neighborhoods.
Do we know what the date is for the upcoming one?
Yeah, it's April 22nd, 8 to 11 a.m. Oh, there's also an address. It's 610 West, 300 South. Okay, So we can just move into our land use items. The first one being Taryn Denali requesting approval of a zone map amendment from the residential conservation zone to the high density residential zone in order to build a new 17-unit apartment building located at 313 East, 200 North, Joaquin Neighborhood. And Dustin Wright is the city planner working on that.
Did you want the applicant to come up? Did you want a planner to introduce it or have the applicant talk about their project? What do you want to do, Laura?
Let's have the planner present the project.
I'm not going to present the project, but I can tell you where it's at. So this project involves a few different applications. There's a general plan amendment application, a rezone application, and a concept plan application. So the general plan and the rezone would have to go to the city council for decision. Currently, it's still in the staff review and the coordinator review committee, the CRC that we call it, of the staff review with all the different divisions going through it and checking it for code analysis. But we have the. Okay, sorry. So we have the developers here, and it looks like they put together a nice presentation for you, but I'm available for any code questions or process questions on this one. It is currently under staff review. It will eventually need to go to Planning Commission and City Council. .313 East, 200 North. Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening. We are actually really excited to be here tonight to present the new and improved Denali project. This project has been in the works for about 1.5 years now, and we've had some key people along the way that have changed the face of this project, many in this very room. So we're excited to show you the changes today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Taryn Denali. I am the passionate owner of the property on 313 East, 200 North. For those of you who were at our first neighborhood meeting, this presentation may be a bit redundant, but I wanted to properly introduce any new members of District 5 to our project. So with that said, Rachel, if you'll do slide number 2 there. I'm just going to introduce ourselves quickly. I am the owner of the property there on the left. We've got Jeremy Brown, who's our building consultant, and Aaron Inouye with Inouye Architecture, who you'll see some really beautiful pictures from this evening. Slide number 3, we're going to just jump into the history of the property here. This property has been in our family for 40 plus years. My grandpa, my dad, myself, my sister, and my 2 girls lived at this location. So we kind of consider this more of a second home here. So I'm hoping that you'll consider me more of a legacy homeowner rather than a developer tonight. Slide number 4, the design inspiration. This is my favorite slide. This project actually means the world to us. My late father and mother kind of changed the face of Provo. My dad hired and fired for Brigham Young University. He was a legend down there. And my mom taught art history. And then together they ran a pizza joint called the Rusty Nail. Slide number 5. Back in May. So originally, almost 1 year ago, we submitted our first proposal. And I came into this proposal as a landlord who saw a housing crisis firsthand. I would put up an ad for the current buildings and I would get flooded. I'd have to take the ad down within 15 minutes. I'd have 50 plus people. People would line around to the corner to be able to receive housing. And so I thought, we've got a problem here. I would really love to address that. And so, and I did own the 2 adjacent properties on this big corner piece. I wanted to help people. So I first pitched this 17-unit student housing apartment building. We were asking for a 15% parking reduction, and our Italian design demanded for a height variance. And we were also doing 4 bedrooms per unit. And we came into the neighborhood and they did have some concerns. They were concerned about the 15% parking reduction. They were concerned about that increasing the traffic patterns in the area. They didn't know if the Italian design was quite their fit for their neighborhood. And they were worried about student housing, those 4 bedrooms per unit. They were worried about batching singles, and they were worried about their neighborhood plan. So the team went back to work. We read every comment. We did an absolute overhaul and redesign. So, oh, sorry, slide number 7 there, Rachel. Oh, no problem. Sorry, I didn't let you know. So new objectives that our team had. First, we still want to obviously address the housing shortage, but in a different way. We actually want to fill in what's called the missing middle demographic, and then provide just a natural insertion of the HDR into this mixed density area here. We want to promote long-term residency. We want to help with safety and surveillance. We want to build a community. I want to finally beautify this corner again. It used to be beautiful, but we want to start by planting trees, many trees in this beautiful building as well. And also we want to respect the neighborhood plan. We want to add to it without disrupting its values. I'd like to read some similar comments and feedback that were mentioned, and to quote, if the property owner and development team were to return with a proposal that is congruent with the neighborhood plan and its historic fabric, disrupted but still valued, the neighbors may be more receptive, especially if it targeted to young marrieds and or small families rather than batching the single students. So slide 8, our new proposal. Here we go, 23 unit multifamily establishment. We've got 23 bedroom apartments, 3 one-bedroom apartments. We are multifamily instead of the student housing. We have adequate all underground parking, no reductions. And we did a major design variation to better fit the neighborhood aesthetic. So are you guys ready to reveal this new project here? My Vanna Whites are here. Okay, here we go. Here's the new and improved Denali project. So essentially what we've done is we've taken the design, we tried to do basically in the design, the residence on that right side that you see to mock the residence. We broke it up a little bit with the courtyard in between, and then the triplex there on that left-hand side. I still did keep a little bit of Italian flair in honor of my parents, put the window boxes, some beautiful flowers, some stained glass, and some balconies. Okay, slide number 10. This is my favorite slide because it's all about the amenities. Okay, courtyard, promoting long-term residency and community. The fountain, stop by the Denali daily and throw a coin into the good luck fountain with your grandkids or on your way to work. The elevator, because no one wants to haul groceries or kids up 3 floors. The community garden, grab something to enhance dinner that night. Security and surveillance, safety, security, cameras, and lighting in lieu of these new recent fires that we've had. So scary. But when I talked to the chief of police, he did say that Joaquin had one of the highest amounts of threat. And I thought that's really, really surprising. If you put this building here, you light it up and you have those cameras and that surveillance that connects straight to the police department. They see everything in real time. We could have had those, could have had them in seconds. Bike storage, encouraging that carless travel. And then obviously EV hookups is just one of those wonderful modern day luxuries. Okay, slide 11. Here's a picture of the courtyard for those who are very visual. I picture Monday night family home evening, football games, family board game nights, cookouts, neighborhood potlucks. Slide 12. Here's where we hit the hard questions. We want you to know that we heard you, and we want to explain all of these different aspects to you of those who are opposing or those with reservations. So why HDR? HDR stipulations state, if you are HDR, you can build 55 feet tall and have 50 units. MDR, medium density, 45 feet tall, 30 units, and LDR, 30 feet tall and 7 units. Now, these specs are based per acre, and we are not a complete acre. So we fall under this technical spectrum of HDR, but I hope you see that we're voluntarily not taking advantage of that title by any means. We're actually more in that medium density range after the changes that you see here. All right, let's dive into density. If you've seen the property, we are actually literally surrounded by HDRs. And to quote one of the neighbors from Joaquin who left a comment to the city, I saw a comment that the project does not fit in with the neighborhood. So I looked at the area a bit to see what they meant. I expected to see a bunch of single family homes and duplexes where this 3-story apartment building would stick out like a sore thumb. Instead, I saw mostly other 3-story apartment buildings, Apollo Apartments next door, Casa Linda around the corner, Fleur de Lis down the street, and Goldstone condos on the other side of the block. So I feel like contextually speaking, I don't think that this building would be alarming. Our developer is actually matching the exact pattern of the buildings that are currently surrounding us. I feel like what kind of felt really, really out of place, I'm going to be honest, when I lived there, because I lived there for 5+ years, was the 3 stories of families that are wrapped all around us, looking right into the windows and into the backyard. It was very obtrusive. Also, in regard to density, we found that this neighborhood could greatly use an upgrade. And so we've gone in and we've talked to Public Works, and they would like to do a localized change with us. And we will be entering into a development agreement with them to do those very updates. Question, why not rebuild? Rebuilding these properties really does not fix the problems that the properties present. And to be honest, I cannot make that pencil. So to give you an idea, I've had a bid of somebody to come out to see where they would kind of start numbers wise on a renovate or a restore. And they said between $200,000 to $300,000 per unit. So furthermore, it does not help the Provo housing situation. It does not help with the parking, which I don't think people realize these old buildings, there's no parking grandfathered into these buildings. And so that's where you're seeing the chaos. There's no place for these people to park. And to be honest, it's just not financially responsible for me. Again, from the public forum to quote, one of the things I value most about living in the Joaquin neighborhood is the architectural diversity and history of the neighborhood. However, the structures on this property simply do not pose significant architectural and historic contributions to the neighborhood. We should not allow the general need for preservation in the area to become a blanket excuse to stop responsible developments that we are in desperate need of. And then lastly, this neighborhood plan that we've talked about, we want to greatly respect the time and dedication put into this neighborhood plan. This plan was carefully constructed for a purpose. And when it was put into place in 2012, I think it did exactly what it was intended to do, which was to pause development. I feel like the current state of the economy is far different for current and future generations. In 2012, you could purchase a home for $200,000-300,000. Now we're nearly $500,000. So few are able to buy. Couples are forced to live in really, really awful conditions, or they're commuting in, adding to the city traffic. And then lastly, I want to kind of speak to this RC zone, residential conservation. So it was established back in 2002 to encourage this conservation of existing homes. Well, more than 20 years later, I feel it inhibits properties like mine that have fallen into dilapidation, as they are not allowed to be upgraded or restored due to the nature of how they were built. The electrical, the plumbing, the insulation shot. When these buildings were built, you only had to have one plug. I mean, your greatest luxury was your clock radio on the nightstand. So unfortunately, you can't keep building on the same footprint unless you have endless money, which does not leave me, who inherited this deteriorating property, with many options. Rather than let these buildings fall apart and go deeper and deeper into disrepair, I want to be proactive. I want to make a change and benefit as many people as I can. And that is why we designed this project with the goal of accommodating growth in a responsible way. Slide 13, thank you so much, Rachel. The current state of the property, here you'll see. You can see that it's definitely unfit and outdated. The maintenance is awful. This winter alone, I have paid $800 gas bills because it's still on an old boiler system. And eventually it's going to become a hazard, a safety hazard. And I feel like it's really embarrassing in bringing down the value of the surrounding properties. And I'm going to be completely transparent with you. Over the years under my father's landlordship, we received numerous formal complaints from local city members of Joaquin that had become the biggest eyesore in the neighborhood, which I think just further prompts an immediate change. Slide 15, let's put our money where our mouths are. Our assurances. Oh, excuse me, sorry, Rachel. Yep, 15, thank you. Skipped you ahead. Our assurances. We purposely redesigned this building to attract a different demographic. The Apollo is right next door. They're young marrieds. The synergy will be perfect. We And we found out, I think this is a big piece, we can limit parking contractually. So we can put in their contract when they come to rent at the Denali that they can only have one car. We will sticker each car and every stall will be numbered, and we will enforce the law and we will tow cars. I will not be running contracts through the school semester and not through the summer months to encourage that long-term residency. And I hope that you see that we're not pushing the boundaries of that HDR label. We're really, again, more in that MDR requirement. The only thing that's pushing us a little bit into HDR is that number of units. I hope you see we're hand-on management. I'm not here to condominiumize this property. And that I think another huge piece of this in answering these questions and you in having and instilling some trust in us is we're willing to do the development agreement with Provo City, ensuring that what you see is what will be built, nothing more, nothing less. Now, I want to take a couple of excerpts from the others that are advocating for this project because they bring up some really good points and I don't want to leave them out. Number one, Provo is in desperate need of more housing. A 3-story development with underground parking and an intriguing architectural design is exactly the way the city should be accommodating for growth in this area. Growth is inevitable, and we do a disservice to the principle of historic preservation when we use it as a blanket excuse to enforce status quoism. There are many historic and unique houses in the area that need preserving, but this is simply not one of them. Development proposals as good as this one are opportunities that the city would be irresponsible to pass up on. Number two, we should absolutely change the zone and build as high density housing as is reasonable. I love that. As a recently graduating master's student with a baby, I want Provo to be some place where my children can live and thrive. Without high density housing, that will be impossible as housing prices will continue to escalate. Number three, to me, this project seems like a great way to meet one of Provo's goals of adding more units to lower housing costs. Additionally, I find the style of the renting to be quite charming and much more appealing than many of the other apartments that have gone up recently. The location is also ideal for higher density housing as it's close to transit, corridors, biking infrastructure, and many walkable locations. To me, this looks like an ideal project for Provo. Number four, please allow more density in this area. The transit is there, the demand is there. It is perfectly situated between the university and downtown. Number five, Provo is in desperate need of more housing. This is a quality design. It is close to transit and is only 3 stories tall. If developments like this don't get approved, then we can guarantee that our children and grandchildren will never be afforded to live in Provo. And lastly,
We've got to move on.
oh, I'm done in 2 more seconds.
Okay.
And lastly, just a beautiful building. It's only 3 stories high and it's perfect for this mixed density neighborhood. Approve it. So my closing statements. I want to be proud of this property finally, and I want you to be proud of what is in your neighborhood, and neither of us are proud of what's there right now. So as my mother always used to say, sempre familia, which means families forever, and we've adopted this new motto for our project. So thank you so much for being here and for hearing us out. We were actually really, really excited this project, and we hope you can be too.
Thanks. I'd like to open it to commentary. Go for it.
Yes, just stay there. You got to answer questions.
Yes.
We don't, oh, I thought I was first.
Sorry, Lou.
She needs to call on people.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah, of course.
Sorry, I didn't see the handout here. I'm
he can go ahead. I'm not gonna.
sure. Go ahead out there and then Leo will go.
Can you come to the mic so that those on Zoom? I like the updated design.
Name and address.
My name is Michael Davis from Mazer Neighborhood. I like the updated design. And just a small question I have is, have you considered who's responsible for maintaining the flower boxes out of the windows?
That's a great question. I've actually had that question before. So in our Italian nature, we take these boxes and we box them off with really beautiful iron balconies. And in the summer, obviously those flowers going in the summer, they don't have to be real. I've always put in fake flowers and so has my aunt, but they can be fake. Or I did have somebody actually say, maybe somebody in the complex would want to be responsible for those flowers and water them every day. But with that said, in the winter, they would come down and we would just have the beautiful iron there on the windows stay. Great question. Thank you so much.
Did you want to go ahead, Leo? And then we'll have,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Brother Keller. Go ahead. You're standing.
My name is David Keller. We live half a block away from this. And yes, you quoted part of my statement. You selected parts of my statement. And as I read through all the statements, it seemed like it was about 70% who were very much opposed to a building this large. And so I noticed that you only quoted a little bit of mine, not much of anybody else's. So no, we don't have time for that. We've been through this before. We had a very long neighborhood meeting with this, and I'm still not convinced that you understand the Joaquin Neighborhood plan. This is too dense for this part. This would be a beautiful project, half a mile north. Your property could be taken care of. It could be upgraded. And we would consider maybe a modest increase in the number of units available, but going from 4 rental units to how many is it now? 23. That is not what the Joaquin Neighborhood Plan says. And I just keep getting more and more surprised that this proposal keeps coming back. There's a few things about this that are a little bit better, but it's still the wrong development in the wrong place.
Thank you so much for your honesty. That's why we're here. I do remember your comments very well. I really wish that I didn't own a property that was in the wrong location, but I do. And so really what we're seeing here is just where do we go from here? We can either look at a dilapidated building and we can let it crumble to the ground. I do not have the means to put into it. If someone else wants to buy it here and treat it as a hobby, it will cost a fortune. Okay, some of these people though haven't been here yet. I was just trying to be respectful. Sir, are you coming up next or?
Hey, I'm a one-legged guy and I didn't shoot myself in the foot, but you're shooting yourself in the foot here. Have you ever lived on that property? Okay, so kind of short-term living there. And when you say you want people to live there long-term and say it's a student housing, I live in a student area. You don't call it that anymore? I understand multifamily, but your statement was that you were focused on student housing. You made that statement in your presentation. Oh, excuse me. Okay, because that does not indicate long-term, number one. Number two, you show us the poor maintenance of the place. How long have you guys maintained it?
Sir, I'm sorry. I've owned this property for 40 years. I inherited it as is.
I understand. Well, then don't blame your father for you owning it for 40 years because the place is a sad place.
we gotta wrap up here. I'm sorry. We have a lot of land use
Okay,
items
any
still
rate,
up.
it hasn't been maintained by the owners and the owners aren't changing. But at any rate, that's a message to the neighbors. And I'm not suggesting that other neighbors would see it that way, but we live in a very similar neighborhood and we have lived with it. And if all the surrounding buildings are big like that, that means it's the load gets, how many rocks do you put on their truck and say, well, there are lots of rocks on here. Let's just throw some more on.
Again, appreciate the honesty.
I think actually that the commentary needs to address us as the board instead of like direct questions to you.
Oh, of course. Oh.
Hi, my name's Spencer. I live right above Guru's Cafe. I'm currently looking for a place to live and it is very hard. And a lot of the options out there, they look like student housing. And I think this actually looks nice. And I have a dog. I'm not sure if you love dogs, but I have a dog and I'm like trying to find a nice place and it's really hard and prices are really expensive. And that to me looks like a huge upgrade. And when there's already tall buildings there, I mean, Provo has such a good mix of historical buildings, but also modern ones. And I think it's better to have something that looks classy than something that looks a bit run down. And I'm not sure, like, what type of price range are you thinking about? Because I'm kind of in between two camps of like trying to find an apartment or trying to find a townhome. And townhomes are kind of nicer and I would like to live there, but I would also like to live in Provo.
So this is just from staff, just as a kind of a overview for the meeting. If you've got questions specific to the developer, if you could take those offline after. This period is really for just comment on the presentation to the board, and we've really got to cut down the back and forth.
Got it. Well, I think it looks great then.
So my name is Zachary Chamberlain. Just a little bit of background. I used to live in Provo for several years until COVID happened. Then I moved back with my family in Layton. I recently got a job in Provo in the city and was looking for housing in Provo and was unable to find housing in Provo that accommodated my needs. And right now I'm living month to month in an apartment in Northern Orem. Since I work in Provo, I would like I would like to live in Provo. I love Provo. My thoughts kind of on this project in particular is that it looks just like a huge upgrade. When I saw what the building could look like, my thoughts are that it was a huge upgrade from what it is now. And I've lived in places and apartment buildings in that very neighborhood in Joaquin where you get management that isn't very passionate and ownership that is, these large corporations. And I'm listening to the owner here who is very passionate and seems like it would be a very cared after and heartfelt project that I think would provide great housing. And I think it's what Provo needs and would really help out the community. So.
So I know how long Joaquin, I live in Timp neighborhood. I know how long Joaquin worked on their neighborhood plan and the dividing line north of 500 North, whatever goes, that area could be developed more density if a house was torn down, et cetera. And then south of the 500 North line, they needed to maintain the zoning as is. And that's the agreement that the Joaquin neighborhood came up with. I believe their neighborhood plan was put into place in the mid, like around 2015-ish. And my neighborhood is very much the same way. We have, I've lived in my neighborhood for 23 years, and I recently walked the neighborhood with 2 city council members, just showing them how many homes in our neighborhood have been added onto or a basement dug out or remodeled. There have been over 20 homes in the last 20 years that somebody could have looked at and said, just like that home right there, that this home is too dilapidated. Who's gonna come and fix it up? Well, 20 people in my neighborhood have fixed up homes just like that. And it allows for a longer term, somebody living there longer term, whether it's a rental, or a family. It allows for longer term living. Could I see the floor? I'm sorry, I didn't see the floor plan. It says it's 3 bedrooms, but could I see the floor plan? Three-bedroom and then. Okay. I guess this is something that if it allows for somebody to, my concern is it really going to allow somebody to live there long-term? Or is it going to be, I think my greatest concern is you're taking 3 lots that could be turned into longer-term living for residents. we don't have that much of it in downtown Provo. So much is being torn down and developed. And in my neighborhood, for example, we have 9% home ownership. 91% is rental. Rental is not a bad thing. It's just that we need long-term rentals. So this is my concern with the project. Are we taking away the opportunity for somebody like the two men who just came up here and said, we can't find housing? So why couldn't these properties just be sold as is and allow somebody to come in, just like in my neighborhood, 20 different homes that have all been renovated or remodeled? So there's an
Thanks.
opportunity there. Thanks.
Okay. I think, sure, we've got more land use.
I'm gonna be very quick.
Okay.
I think this is a great project. I totally sympathize with the idea that, like, let's take this house and let's fix it up and let's have a family live in it. I don't know if any of you guys have been on Zillow recently. I'm on Zillow all the time. I'm 24. I'd love to buy a house. The cheapest house you can find in this city anymore is like $400,000, and that's for a fixer. And like, how many of you, when you were in your 20s, fresh out of college, had 400 grand to buy on a fixer that you needed to put another 150 in? Like, the idea is really nice that we can have families in here, but at the prices that we have right now in this city, like, it's just not possible. Maybe 20 years ago it was. And I think where we're at now, we just need more affordable housing for young families. You know, we would love to buy houses, but we can't afford them. So we need to rent apartments. And this is a great project. I support it. Thank you.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm just a couple of concerns that I expressed previously is that I live a block away from it on 200 North, and the increased number of parking is going to be a problem because we can contractually say you can only have one car, but on my street, there are several people who have multiple cars. That's going to be a problem. We do have some problems with increased traffic at the roundabout, the experimental one that's at 200 North, 200 East. We just had another crash just last week. It's not really working. Increased traffic is going to make that a problem. And I've been going both ways and slowed down to let people who should have slowed down go through, or else they would have hit me. That's a problem. The cost on this project for each apartment is going to be a lot. I live in, like I said, in the neighborhood, and a lot of the students who are looking for places would not be able to afford something like this. So I do think that it looks nice, but it's not the right thing for our neighborhood. It really isn't. And as a longtime resident, I did have a fixer-upper house. I have spent the last 30 years fixing up my house. And I think it's a valuable thing to do. And I think that that house and those apartments would be part of a legacy that would be great to look back at what we've had and fix them up and make them look good. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, do you
Finally,
briefly?
20 units, 3-bedroom. 20 of the units have 3 bedrooms. So what's to prevent you from renting to 3 singles in those? Is that in your development agreement? So you can't rent to single students. That's. So you could put 3 in there, and your parking's for 2 though. And so the parking ratio you have is for 2 per.
This is why it's protected with development agreement and also contractual. So all the parking to the young village stuff is all underground. So, and then by using development agreement and parking stickers, will limit the amount of parking.
But you can still, you'll still be able to rent to 60 people in those 3. And I know, but 10 years from now, if you sell it, somebody could come in and say, well, I'm going to put 3 in each of those units. And now we have 60 people. And I'm reiterating some of the stuff from before. And then have you on this picture here, I brought this up with you before. Have you talked about removing the strip and putting angle parking in out front? It can't count for your parking requirement, but it does give more parking spaces for like visitors and that kind of stuff. So you don't show that though. So you're not planning on doing that? Yeah, but the city allows that is what I'm saying. And so I think if you showed that, that would be more parking. Yeah, and I didn't say students or not, but I'm saying right now 40 people can fit in those. But if you have 3 bedrooms, there's going to be an empty bedroom in a sense. If they what? Anyway.
I'm just
Chair
wondering if the
Levitt,
back and
we
forth
need-
on this
we
could
need to
be.
get
What
going.
could happen
after
though is I could rent
the
that
meeting.
from you and then I could put 2 other people in there and it would be legal. You couldn't prevent me from doing that unless it was in your contract and then you enforce that or the city had that in your development. Okay, I'm going to move on. So the parking strip, you're open to that. And then on the 1 car thing, you can't control how many cars they have. They could own 10 cars and park them 2 blocks away and you can't do anything about that. That's a fallacy. And so it's frustrating, but it's a fallacy. They can't do it. And
We got to move on. Sorry.
I see this all the time. But anyway, those are my questions.
If I could say one last comment, I own some houses south of campus. They're the old ones that were built in the 40s and 50s, with the cast iron plumbing and all the problems that come with all that. And my experience has been, I can't keep the yards nice. The students just, the houses are old. I don't think the area is ever going to be a desirable place for people to come in and put a single family dwelling in and keep up the yard. There's just too many students around. I do think that it would be an improvement to have a nice place. I've worked on these old houses and that's what they are. They're more than 100 years old. They're not pretty. And so I don't think hanging on to just keeping the legacy is the thing to do with this property. It's old.
Sure.
They're very old and and the people you have to rent to in an old house like that don't keep up the yard. I think you'd be better off with the apartments.
Thank you.
Chair Levitt,
There's
did you
just-
want to go on with an opinion poll on those for, against, or no opinion on this project?
Sure,
since it's
let's do
going
it
on to
fast.
city council?
Who's in favor of the
And that's just for the committee, right? Or is this for
The
the
board?
whole neighborhood?
Yeah, this is for the whole neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
just an
thinking-
opinion poll of everyone here of for, against, and those abstaining. So just so that can be part of the report that goes on to the city council. And that's for everyone in attendance.
Okay, who is in support of this project?
I'm on Zoom.
You have to be a resident of District
No, no,
5
no,
to
if you're-
vote.
If you're with I'm sorry, if you're part of the project, no.
Yeah, you have to live within District 5 in order to vote.
Are you in support of the Denali project that's just been presented to us?
Are you counting?
You must live in District 5.
Honor system.
Yeah, there are, yeah.
It has to be your residence, not just where you own property, you have to actually live there to vote.
Okay. Opposed? We have one on Zoom as well. Okay. Let's move on. Greg Nelson requests financial subdivision for a 3-lot condo plot in the Race Project Redevelopment Option Zone. We have the planner here.
And just as we move forward, can I get clarification on format here? So for format, we're going to have the project presented and then it's open to public comment. And there's no back and forth between the developer and the questions. And after the public comment, then it's closed to all voices from the outside. And then we have a discussion. Is that right? Isn't that how that works? Okay. What do we do then?
Quinn, I could address that.
Okay, let's hear it.
If that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So Quinn, you're talking about public hearings,
Okay.
and that's correct for public hearings. This is just a neighborhood meeting. It's not
Okay.
that formal. The idea here is for topics that the neighborhood wants to talk about. They ask the developer applicant to come in to get feedback, do a feedback poll, and then move on to the next thing. That's really the idea behind this.
So as a committee, later on, we can talk about it, but maybe we set up rules like that so it doesn't get chaotic where people talk back and forth.
With what you're saying, what I would propose is that we let the developer and the staff do their thing. And then we open it up to the board members who live in that area. It's a citywide thing, then everybody can. We make our quick comments and then let the public comment. That would be more of an organized.
We can organize that officially later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have the
Sure.
planner for,
Aaron, real quick, and Chair Levitt, just to chime in kind of for the education of all those that are here. The neighborhood and district meetings, these are not where, it's not a decision-making body. This is not a legislative body. We're here to get feedback from the neighborhood. These items, should the developer choose to move forward, these will go before the planning commission, which is a decision-making body, which will make a recommendation to the city council, which will ultimately make a decision. So this is just for public feedback. Would encourage you, if you have additional questions for the developer, to reach out to them, because it's just, it makes the process fairly difficult and lengthy if we do it back and forth.
I appreciate that. So this next one on the agenda is, if you're all familiar with the Mill Race project down between 5th, 6th South and 100 West and University Avenue. The first phase you might see being built right now in the middle. This is simply the plat and the plat for the project. They're creating a land condo plat to be able to build the next phases of the project. I believe that's kind of all the introduction we need on this. Thanks.
okay.
Thanks, Aaron. My name is Greg Nelson. I'm representing the development team. I think I can keep this relatively brief for all of you. Like Aaron said, all we're trying to do is accommodate the building of the next phase. The first building's getting close to completion right now, should be done with and starting punch list items in the next 30 days. We want to move to the second phase of the building, which is that unit 3. So that's on the east side that you see on the screen. We want to move there next because I think your next agenda item is UDOT bridge stuff. And we have been in a lot of meetings with UDOT because we need to coordinate with UDOT on that bridge stuff. It involves a lot of utilities and all that kind of stuff. So really, we're just here requesting that we take that block, put it into those 3 spots that roughly coordinate with these sort of sections of the block. And that's about as simple as it is tonight. So these are conceptual renderings of what that second phase would look like towards the east. And we didn't have the bridge drawn in because it got really expensive to have someone draw that bridge in. So that's where we're at.
Cool. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah.
Just a question. I had seen earlier renderings of fairly large.
Big tower.
Yeah, that I don't see that. Has that changed?
Yeah, it has. What happened is as interest rates went up, the cost of building that went up, and also concrete has gone up substantially, not come back down. So right now, as we looked at it, effectively, in order to build that big tower, we had to be very, very certain that we could get really high rental rates for that product. And the cost of being wrong on that as concrete goes up gets significantly higher. So our concern became, in the current economic environment, heading into a recession with concrete going up, interest rates going up, the cost of being wrong for the city, for us, could be a half-built building. And we just didn't want that. We didn't feel like that was a good idea in this environment. So we shrunk the project down. I think the benefit to the neighborhood is that we deliver a lot fewer units on the neighborhood. It's a smaller project and probably a more appropriately sized project. I think, on the flip side, I know the city really is excited about the tower. We were excited about the tower because it would have brought product to Provo that doesn't exist. That being said, it was too big of a financial risk with where costs went for us to want to do that, because again, the cost of being wrong was huge. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Other questions? Okay,
And
thank you.
Chair Levitt, just to clarify, we don't do an opinion poll unless it's an item that will be going on to the city council. So this
Okay.
item would not have an opinion.
Okay.
poll.
Hey, shall we move on to the next item? I don't have the, hold on, I've got it. All right, Gordon Haight on the bridge.
Thank you, Gordon Haight, City Engineer for Provo City. So I'm here to introduce and talk a little bit about the UDOT bridge. It's in its final, it's being designed. There's final details being put together with it. But I think there's some really exciting things that we ought to make sure the public's aware of. And also there is still opportunity to get some feedback. I don't have a drawing for it right now, but we can send it out. But bridges are fun to look at. But the things that I wanted to talk about specifically, and I'll try to make my comments fairly quickly, is that we're going to have 6-foot sidewalks on each side of that bridge. And I think that's a real benefit. We're also going to have 8-foot wide bike paths on each side of the bridge. So if you go look at that bridge now, I wouldn't walk across that bridge. It's a little treacherous. The reason we wanted to have this size is this bridge is going to be around for another 75 years. So we want to get it right, depending on what's going to happen in the future. Other things associated with this bridge, it will have a wrought iron railing as opposed to chain link fence over the tracks. We're going to have decorative lighting every 80 feet, soldiered across, so it's going to be very well lit. Underneath the tracks on 6th South, we're going to put a sidewalk along there. We're putting a lot of wall packs under the bridge, so it's very well lit, so people will be, it's kind of uncomfortable walking by railroad tracks, but we wanted to make it very bright. So there's a sidewalk that'll be going along the south side of 6th South that will connect. We're also going to be putting some sidewalk by the startups. So we just want to have that last and first mile really connected to the intermodal hub to this when it gets finished, so that people are comfortable walking there, riding their bikes and so forth. So if there's any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Yes.
Okay, so you're going to get on this, you're going to climb up or going to take the elevator, cross the railroad tracks.
Okay, that's the PED bridge. I was talking about the UDOT bridge over University. But I can talk about that one too if we have a question about that.
Yeah, I thought that's the one you're talking about.
No, sorry.
Because you said 6 South and 6 South.
So what I meant to say is that bridge crosses 6 South, and we're going to put a sidewalk underneath the bridge following 6 South from the pedestrian elevator bridge that we're doing to the intermodal hub. So I can answer questions.
So the other one that's going to go over to 6 South, is that going to go from the railroad tracks across 6 South to the other side?
It'll go just over the railroad tracks, and it will be on the south side of 6 South. You'll still need to walk a crosswalk
Okay, so
across 6 South.
that doesn't make any sense to me to be safe from the railroad, but then we have to be in danger now walking across 6 South. Let's put it, just go a little bit farther, put it on the other side. You can still put it stairs down on the other side, but let's get everybody across 6, because there's nothing on that south side that somebody's going to walk to.
You need to cross 6 South once you get there.
Yeah, well, change it. I
Dave,
mean, hello.
Go for it.
All right, I just, sometimes I think why pictures are so valuable. So we're talking about the viaduct, the university. that
Bridge.
goes
That's
up-
what I came to talk about, but I can't
and over.
ask,
Talking about
address
the other
that
one.
issue.
The other pedestrian, okay, thank you.
Yes. So just to answer your question, the bridge that we're building over, we do have the ability, the design includes, if we get money, we could add an extension over 6 South, but there is not an element for that. It's under construction, should be done this fall. It will be done this fall, but it won't have a piece over 6 South, although it has the ability to expand.
Okay.
Quick.
Let's move on to Provo City Development Services requesting text amendments to, oh, this is the boat and trailer one. Is there anyone who can speak to this?
I think Abinadi is coming up on that one, right, Abinadi? Right, here he is.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abinadi Borja, Code Compliance Officer, Provo City. So like Gordon, I don't have a slide. So what I'm going to do is just read how it's going to be proposed. Provo City Code Section 1434-060, boats, recreational vehicles, and trailers. Boats, recreational vehicles, trailers may not be placed, kept, or maintained within the front yard areas of any residential zones. In the clear vision area of a corner lot as defined in section 1434-100 Provo City Code, or in a street side yard of a corner lot. However, such items may be allowed in these locations for a temporary period not to exceed 24 hours for loading and unloading purposes, or for temporary storage not to exceed 7 days, provided the item is owned or rented by a bona fide guest of the occupants of the premises. Travel trailers and other recreational vehicles may be occupied on a temporary basis on a lot in the single-family residential zone for traveling guests or visitors subject to the following. The trailer or recreational vehicle must be parked off the street, not within the front yard areas. The occupancy must be limited to not more than 7 consecutive days and not more than a total of 30 days in any calendar year. And discharge of any sewage, black water, waste must be done properly by accessing a dump station so as to not pose environmental harm or create unsanitary conditions. That's it. The other part is just definitions and updating the definitions in the code.
Is this just for people parking trailers in front of their house and stuff?
Yes, this would include all trailers, not just specific trailers like boat trailers, travel trailers.
It's not like for storage lots where you rent somebody and they can park their trailer on your property.
Correct. You
Okay.
are allowed to park them on the side yard or in the backyard, but not the front yard.
But just like you said, that's only if you own it or rent the vehicle or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So you cannot rent it out as a storage space to strangers, no.
I was talking about like tow yards. There's all included in those. So if I had an acre property and I wanted to rent trailers, this is not talking about that.
No, this is only in residential zones. So there are specific zones for
So
tow yards.
when you see somebody parked out front and everything's leveled and they've got a hose to it and a power cord, they could do that for 7 days.
The new proposed amendment, yes, would allow that for such a use.
I don't have it in front of me, so I couldn't read along while you were reading it, but it sounded to me that it could only be occupied if it was not in the front yard. Did I miss that?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the side yard.
So it can't be in the front yard
Yeah.
or on the street. It needs to be side yard or backyard.
Side yard or backyard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then Rachel,
Okay.
do we need a poll for that or not?
Usually not, since that's a citywide, we usually don't do a poll, but we do welcome, you know, if you're interested, if you have an opinion, to go to Planning Commission or the City Council and either contact them through email or make a public comment at the hearings.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Could we have Nancy Robison present the soda drive-through project?
But that's going to be
Oh,
Erin
it's-
again.
Okay, welcome, welcome again.
Thank you. We didn't see a point in having several staff members stay. So this is a project plan proposed right next to Master Muffler, if you're familiar, just down the street on Center Street, in kind of their surplus parking on the eastern portion of their property. The proposal is to put a permanent soda drive-through establishment against Center Street. So this one, again, this one isn't currently on any agenda. It's in staff review and going through some revisions at this time. The text amendment, for those that were interested in it, that was just read by Abinadi, that's on the April 12th Planning Commission agenda.
And the applicants are online, so if you want to unmute yourself and kind of introduce your project.
All right, yeah. My name is AJ Schaefer. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm with Ward Engineering Group, working with Guzzle Soda as part of this project. They would like to construct a new soda shop at this location. Similar to is similar shop as Swig or Fizz, a couple of the other ones that are well known around the area. Then they're like they're installing it there on Center Street, next to the existing muffler shop. There at the corner of Center and 800 West. It is primarily a drive-through facility with a window for walk-up orders as well. So the intent of the design is to try to, they're trying to follow the guidelines, the architectural guidelines for the area, so they don't stand out too badly, and try to mimic some of the architecture that the city would like within this zone. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask. I believe Matthew Pinder, who's a Guzzle representative, is also on the line as well.
My name's Dylan Sindrich. I guess I'm actually on the executive board, so I didn't get the memo. I should be sitting up there, but I have some problems with this plan, to be honest with you. This is the main gateway into the city of Provo. I drive past this every day when I get on I-15 to drive to work. And right now, like it's pretty rough, actually. There's like a couple abandoned gas stations, a lot of parking lots. It doesn't look good, but I think that the intention the city has is to make it a nice gateway into our beautiful historic downtown, so that when people get off the freeway, they can recognize like, hey, I'm in a nice place. Like, this is Provo. We're different from Orem. We're different from Springville, Spanish Fork. And I just like, this does not do it for me. I appreciate that you're following like the design standards that are in the area, but to be honest, it looks like a shipping container. Another problem that I have is like the drive-through lane is placed between the road and the building. So really, you're not even going to see the building. You're going to see the cars lined up in there. Like, to be frank with you, I don't think we should have any drive-throughs on Center Street at all. So I'm really not going to support this project, period. But if you wanted to make it better, put the drive-through on the back side so that the cars come in and out off 800 and you don't see them from Center Street, and put the walk-up window facing Center Street. I think that would be better in the character of what we want this street to be in the future. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Question. He's still, can he hear me, the guy that's on Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, so when the cars back up, how many cars can be in line before they're out on the street?
Right now, our queuing length, we can hold at least, I think, 8 to 10 cars. In our queuing length within the drive-through aisle itself. From the pickup window to the entrance to the drive-through.
Okay. And so if you have more than that, then they're going to be parking in the street.
Valid point.
I guess.
Bumped to the curb.
I have heard that someone commented to me earlier that that was their concern, was just like traffic coming from Center Street where it's coming right off of the freeway at a pretty high speeds. People are still flying.
Luckily, that looks like the entrance is not on Center.
Sure.
It is on 800 West. And I would just sort of second, but add some clarification on the concerns about the gateway. We had no design standards in the gateway until about 6 months ago. And we filed and just created the design standards so that now there are standards about architectural styles and building materials in that gateway. So if this fits that new standard, that's great and that will be helpful. But yeah, traffic, I guess that's a Gordon question. I do know that historically for some of the old ones with these drive-throughs, it has created some traffic issues. So that would just be a question to keep in mind for traffic engineers. But I mean, I'm glad that it is not on Center and it looks like it would probably fit.
We have like a +1 on Zoom to what Dylan Sindrich just said to capture. Sure. Maybe just a really, I'm like, can you comment for 1 minute?
I can be like 20 seconds.
Great.
If I was playing like a SimCity video game, I wouldn't choose this, right? But I don't own this particular property. And if he conforms with the law, I don't see why we should stop him.
Okay.
Mine's
go
10
ahead.
seconds. So I concur with Dylan. Bring the building forward to front the sidewalk, have the drive-through go behind the building. This is a very walkable area. You're going to have lots of walk-ups.
Thanks. Go ahead, Dave, and then we'll move on from this item.
The fact that it looks like a shipping container might actually be a shipping container actually almost gives me a little more, makes me a little more comfortable with it, because I don't think it's going to be a barrier to the next iteration of what will come here, because it seems almost temporary.
Thanks all. Let's move on. Okay, so now we are to engineering items. How much time do we have? We said 10 minutes per item. Maybe we can go a little faster. So intersection safety improvements for Joaquin Neighborhood with CDBG funds.
So we had some discussions with one of your board members last year about some of the concerns about walking and so forth in the walking area. And so we've started to put together some plans and trying to look at walking corridors. And so we've applied for some CDBG funding. We should know in about within 30 days if we get it. And if we do, we'd like to meet with the neighborhood and start a first phase of doing that and kind of show some ideas, but really get feedback, the kinds of things to get some good walking towards BYU back and forth to really make it a safer pedestrian bicycle access. So nothing to present today, but what I want to do is let you know that's coming. And if we get the funding, we want to work with the neighborhood where we should start those and how we put those corridors in place.
Have intersections already been identified?
We've identified stuff, but we want to get feedback before we say it's official. So we know we have ideas what we think we should do, but we're really interested in getting input from the neighborhood before we make it final.
That's great.
So we're not identifying specific things. We said specific bulb outs and some chicanes and doing some lighting and different things, but we haven't picked the location these go.
Okay. So I'm like, I live in Joaquin. I'm a Joaquin rep. So I'm like, I am happy to work on.
So we want to come and meet with you.
Outreach.
So that's kind of our deal.
Yeah. Yeah, Leo.
Okay, this is the main reason I came to this
I
meeting
didn't
tonight.
mention your name.
What?
I didn't mention your name. You were the one.
I know you pointed at me though, and that's fine, because I'm very passionate about this one. On 500 North, there are literally thousands of pedestrians that risk their lives going across 500 North. It's a collector street. And there is nothing on that street. It hasn't been for 42 years. And I've been trying for 30 years to get something on there. A little boy was killed in front of the rec center. Bam, 2 of them were put up. No CBDG money, no thought. Bam, a little boy was killed. Let's do something. BYU buys Provo High. They get rid of a lane. They put in the flashing things. No CBDG money, no votes. Nobody talked to the neighborhood chairs about it. Bam. I've witnessed 2 deaths on 500 North. I had 1 in my arms when they died. And that's only me, the times I'm going. I don't know what else has happened there. There's been no deaths at the one on University, and there's been no deaths. There was 1 death at the rec center. And bam, magically everything changed. Why are we having to wait for CDBG money? Do we have to wait till another student is killed?
This is the money we're going to be able to get. And if we get it, we want to know, put it in the right places. So
But why are we having to wait for, it should just happen.
Yeah,
The people that go back and
I'm not in
forth,
charge of
you're
that,
not
so-
there. I drive that every day. And at night, we can't see them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many near deaths happen every night. I'm not there and I don't have time to stand there. But just there should be one of those flashing things at every intersection along 500.
Yeah, I would just add, Leo, I think that's a good email for council, because that's not really Gordon's call.
We'll use the money we get for this. And I'm telling you, we think we're gonna get some money. So I'm pretty confident. And so I believe we'll be coming with you with some
We
plans.
need to
to
quit
do
waiting
something.
until there's deaths though, before you do something.
Let's hope not.
And there already has been and you didn't do anything.
I'm delighted that we have funding to improve some of our intersections.
And I'm on the next item.
Great.
So the question was about storm drain, and we know about some flawed storm drains, various locations. Our biggest one we're working with right now is Franklin. There's some problems with Carterville. I wanted to know if there was a specific location you were concerned about, or just generally, we have some projects already started putting in storm drain, or
Yeah, it was Art Ocone of Franklin Neighborhood. He's the one that brought it up about the storm drains.
he's right, it's bad.
And if I could add, there are a few in Mazer, right on 3rd South.
Yes.
Right off 3rd South, there are several, and the resident that deals with it every day is right here, but right in front of their parking, it covers their whole driveway. It's clear out to the curb. It's pretty bad right there.
So we have several projects that are going forward right now. They're under construction. We hope to have several of them done this year, and we have some that will be finished up next year. So if you want to get with me, we can talk about the specific things we're doing in those things, and we could give you a kind of an idea of timing. Storm drain is so exciting to talk about, but most people, it's kind of an individual thing. I don't know that we want to spend everybody's time, but I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody and kind of go through it. I don't know if that was too generic.
It's been a while, but someone mentioned to me once that there was a band at BYU, or that band was named Fortheast Floods, because I think there was a propensity for the storm drain overflowing on Fortheast.
We don't want to ruin that legacy, so.
But I actually haven't heard about that for a while.
I wasn't
so don't
going
know
to
if it's been
comment, but that's the
fixed.
street I live on. I didn't want to be like, well, my driveway is always flooding.
It sounds
Center
like it.
Street and 400 is awful.
Okay.
Yeah. And we actually, anyway, we have somebody who owns that, who doesn't live there. It's like an Airbnb property.
Yeah.
So it's not properly maintained, but
But on 5th North, between 5th West and the freeway, there seems to be a few of those intersections that when it rains, they
yeah.
fill up. So just that's just a couple places that I've heard of.
Yeah, so we absolutely, what we'll do is we'll bring back a schedule when we're going to get everything done. We were supposed to be out in the field already with a lot of areas. And so our whole schedule, everything we would have told you is wrong. It's still supposed to be raining next week. And so we're a little behind it. We got plenty of snow, by the way, so we can, whoever's praying can stop, but we want to get out and finish up some projects. And so we should have a very tight schedule. We have contracts awarded and we're moving forward with stuff. So anyway, hopefully we get it all in place quickly.
Thank you, Gordon. I think that's it. I didn't realize that this meeting went to 8:30. I thought it was 8. I was like, we gotta hurry. We gotta rush.
Does anybody want to comment on that one?
I'll get better. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Sorry.